Hello and welcome to this episode of the Housing Geospatial podcast, the podcast where we discuss anything and everything that relates to either housing or geospatial, preferably if there's a little bit of both. Housing Geospatial was formed as we believe place matters for social housing and that geospatial information is woefully underrepresented within the housing sector. This series is around sharing a collective knowledge within the housing sector. You can find us on either LinkedIn or feel free to head on over to our website at www.housinggeospatial.co.uk. I'm your host Chris Kinnear and our guest for this podcast is the innovative Harald Tryti Rieber, who is the co-founder and CTO at Atlas. Hey Harald, thanks for joining us today.
Nice to see you again, Chris.
So first of all, how are you involved in housing and or geospatial?
Well, so a couple of years ago, I started Atlas because together with a group of friends, we kind of realized that maps today suck. It's really hard to work with maps a lot of the time. So we wanted to make anything related to maps a fantastic experience, and that led us into housing, I guess.
Brilliant, thank you very much. So you talked about being the founder of Atlas, which is a geospatial platform.
Yeah.
What led to that creation of Atlas?
Yeah, I think for me personally, it was kind of the next step on my journey as a builder. I always liked to make things, and I was very lucky to meet a couple of other co-founders that were built the same way, that really liked to make things, and we formed a pretty dynamic trio. And what we kind of then came to the realization about was like, okay, we need like a big problem. We need like a big thing we want to fix. And we had taken some university courses on mapping, and we were not like super happy with, how mapping software worked. Like QGIS, the first time I used it, made me feel really stupid. And kind of the same with the entire S3 stack, and pretty much like any other software. Like even if you are a developer, like I remember trying to install Gedal the first time and like using that myself. Like the entire experience has been very painful. So kind of like as this other thing for me, I wanted to prove that you can build software and actually use that to help the environment. And one of the cool things about maps is that it's so related to the environment. And a lot of the time when you use maps, you actually do it to be nice to nature. So I thought, like this is a super cool way where I can have a big impact, work on a big problem that gives me kind of like butterflies in my stomach because it sounds so like large and unrealistic and difficult. And kind of take my next step as a builder. So for us, when we kind of set the vision of like, let's take maps from like 1990s to 2025, let's take S3 out of the 70s, I guess. Let's do what that's happened in so many other industries where you get modern spreadsheets or you get modern design tools or whatever. Let's do that for maps. Let's have maps has like a glow up period. That's what we really wanted to happen.
That's awesome, especially with the environmental aspect of that as well. Really plays kind of a lot to my own sort of personal feelings. And I think that's a really good point. If you try doing QGIS on your own, it is a lot of work to get to know it, especially when you start talking about coordinate reference systems, projection reference systems.
Yes.
And so making that simpler for end users is, I think it's a really good cause.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, carry on.
Yeah, it's like to run a buffer, you shouldn't need to know the difference between EPSG 4326 and EPSG 3857. It's like, that doesn't matter. You want to figure out how far is something from your house. It's like you shouldn't have to think about these things, but yet you do. So it's like all of these things are just cumulatively makes you feel like you're not a smart person, but you are, and you should feel powerful instead.
Yeah, I think that's a brilliant drive. So we've talked a lot about innovation and product creation, and you at Atlas have a really interesting philosophy. So how is your philosophy at Atlas, how is it unique, and how does it drive your innovation and product creation?
Yeah. So I think one really important thing when it comes to entrepreneurship is, of course, to differentiate, to be different. Like it's no point to create a new company and then just do something that somebody else does before. So, and we just looked at the mapping space and we're like, there's so many opportunities here to be different in a meaningful way. And one of them was just like, okay, let's, instead of aligning ourselves with these old companies or with these old philosophies, let's align ourselves with the tools that we love to use, like the tools that just makes me, like happy to use. And as a developer, that's tools like Linear, for example. I really love that. It's so quick, it's short keys for everything. You can kind of start and feel powerful, but also learn and become a power user. It's tools like, I don't know, Notion, for example. It can be Figma. There's so many of these tools, and I'm like, that's what we want to make, like Figma for maps, pretty much. So, and basically what that means is that we have to think really, really hard from the ground up about a lot of these like fundamental things about how you do geospatial. Like, okay, so you definitely want to be able to set degrees for certain types of buffers. You want to be able to use different types of units, but where should that be? Where should that happen? Should it be like in more advanced setting? Who should it be exposed to? Like all of these things, kind of like from the ground up. Even like there were so many things when we first started out. Even and you will become very desensitized to it, because even a simple thing like adding a layer, if you go into QGIS, like an entire new menu opens up, and then you have the VMSs, and you have all these external servers, and they have the different connections, and then you need to input this API parameters, and it's all these crazy things where we're like, okay, let's see like how far can we get with a simple like drag and drop thing. And you can go pretty far. You can go like, if you need connections or you need like to set some, specify which fields you want to geocode on or something, then sure, you need another flow. But for most files, you just want to drag and drop them, and don't worry if it's like a shapefile or geo package or whatever it is. So all these things we had to rethink from the ground up. And to do that, we have tried to think from first principles, like what's the actual problems people are trying to solve here. But we have also taken a lot of inspiration just from all these other softwares. So everybody in the team, we use all like so many different products every single day. Every Thursday in our team, we create maps internally. So we take like a specific use case, could be a use case for UK housing, for example. And we do our very best to try to solve it with our own platform. And then we see like, oh, this was not possible because we're missing this thing, or like we have this bug there, or like this was not intuitive, or whatever. And then we just make it better like all the time. So we try to drive ideas from kind of like the bottom up, like the entire team is responsible for bringing ideas. It's not like I get to work and I'm like, oh, yeah, you should work on this. It's more like bring everybody in, force everybody to be extremely product oriented and be as close to the real problems as possible, and then use that to drive innovation. And I think the scary thing about it is that the process can be very messy, because with innovation, it's by like design experimental. You don't have the answers. There's no like 2 lines under the answer type thing. So you kind of just have to go along. But that's also luckily the fun about it. So if you just get the right people in the door, some like certain people will just thrive in an environment like that, and it will become like a new person. And I think we've seen that several times. So that makes me really happy as a leader, I guess.
One of the things that I really like about Atlas, that I think it was the thing that drew me in initially, was, you say, like earlier on you mentioned how complicated QGIS and Esri can be, and you've got to go through loads of different menus in order to do something, like just buffering. That should be a simple process. I like one of the things that was advertised was, you don't need every single tool that's in a GIS. Most people are probably only using one of 20 or 30. And the fact is, like you said, you just do a click and it's a simple process for the end user. How was that kind of the original goal of what you had, or was that just as a result of your culture of always pushing your own boundaries, going, actually, do we need all these bits in there that's normally there?
That's a very good question. So kind of how it happened was that we were maybe a bit too, I don't know, I think one way we have grown as a team was, I think in the beginning we were a bit too reactive. So we're like, okay, let's try to solve this for this specific use case, let's try to implement it a bit like from start to finish. And we didn't think about like how it generalizes across use cases. But then we started working a lot on that. So like understanding which pieces fit together, like is this a puzzle piece? And one of the key realizations we had was that for honestly almost any mapping project, you have a couple of parts that you need. You need like the data and connections part. So you need some way to like connect to the external databases and upload files and all of this stuff. You need to get the data into the system. And then you also need like some type of editor, like your working area where you run some basic analysis and you style your data set a bit and you assign permissions to different users and all of that like data management handling type thing. Then you need one component, which is more like the public facing one, when people are going to consume your maps, how do you make it available to them? How does it look? Maybe you create some type of dashboard. So that was like one component. And then we're like, okay, so there's all these automations and all these processes that typically need to run periodically or in the background or be triggered or whatever. So there has to be like an automations piece. And then there's this other, I guess, data input thing, which is more like the forms, where it's not like you typically don't necessarily have the map, but you have like a form where you input data and that goes into some data sets or into some system somewhere so it can be managed. And we're like, that's pretty much it. Like there's not that many more parts that are required. Like, yeah, sure, you could argue some public facing APIs. And yeah, I agree. That's another thing, but it's mostly smaller stuff. So like with these components, with like data input with like connections and uploads, and you have the editor, and you have the public facing maps, like the interfaces, and you have the automations and the forms, then that's pretty much it. So it's like, and then the question kind of became like, oh, then that was like a very big realization. Like, we don't have to build this insanely big thing. We just have to make these 5 components like insanely good and work like insanely good together. And it will just be like so powerful. So that's kind of the journey we're on right now. And I think we do have all the components, but they need like, many of them need improvements, and we're working hard to just make that incredibly good. But that we have a much more focused vision now. Whereas like if you do those 5 things, then we can do like 90% of geospatial.
I mean, that's an awesome thought. Like, you've really cut down on a lot of the bloat, and you can still maintain that. And this actually brings us on fantastically to our next question. So, Atlas hasn't been intendedly designed for UK housing, but there's a lot we can draw from the external world of housing and what you're doing at Atlas. What functions at Atlas do you think could support UK housing providers?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a bunch of common tasks that you can do. Like it could be investment analysis, like trying to figure out which properties to buy and which regions to expand. If you're like a person that buys real estate, it could be like site planning. Like once you have bought a plot or something, to plan how where to build what and how far it is to subways and how to connect to the road system or how to connect to underground piping, whatever. It could also be more of the public facing tasks like community engagements, like making a map and showcasing how the site will look and give that to people in the neighborhood. It could be a regular urban planning task. So a lot of, I guess, government entities, I think, has also gotten great value out of being able to let people make comments in maps. So just adding a comment directly into a map in the same way you would as in, I don't know, like a Google Docs spreadsheet or something. So there's a lot of use cases that we do support, but I think one of the key things is that you don't have to be a GIS expert to do any of them in Atlas. And that's kind of like one of the key points. It's like what we have seen typically, and this is true for like, I'm sure it's true for UK housing, it's true for the people I've talked to in UK housing in general, is that just the way that geo is organized typically in an organization, if it even exists, is kind of one of the problems. It's like you have a project planner, that person sends some kind of task to their GIS department, and they either get some type of report back or some answers back, or they just gets added to a backlog, and then the GIS people are kind of like overworked. And I feel like I've heard this story like so many times.
Yeah.
The files are sent back and forth on the email, and it's kind of crazy. So I think the big thing we enable is that instead of that entire thing happening, you can have a bit more of an ambitious project manager, typically like, I don't know, a person that would listen to a UK housing geospatial podcast or something to get more inspiration. Actually go in and perform the task themselves and being able to very quickly get kind of far. And that's what we've seen with the companies that succeed the most. It's like they have somebody that have a problem and they try to solve it with the geospatial, and then they start to use it, and then they start to pull in the GIS people later, and they can collaborate in a very easy and natural way. So I think the key thing we add is like, if you have a small team, if you don't have necessarily a GIS person, or maybe if you just want your project manager to not bother you, then I think definitely that helps out quite a bit.
I think the democratization of being able to produce your own maps and get spatial insight, I think that's probably one of your biggest USPs, along with the you don't need everything. You can have here's a set number of tools. Like you said earlier on, here's your builder, here's your forms creation. You know what, that actually ties us in brilliantly. So you've been working on loads of stuff recently over the past few weeks and months.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit more about your product roadmap over the next 12 months or so?
Yeah. So the most important thing that we're just like grinding away right now is our AI map builder called Navi, which will be released, I think it's the 21st of November. So super excited about that. And basically what it is that we're trying to take down the barrier as much as possible to create maps. And we have started to do that by creating really good components that are easy and natural to interact with. But the step like to make it even simpler than that, we'll just have like a chat box that you can talk to that will auto create the maps for you, auto create forms, auto create automations, auto create like the shareable interfacing maps, even auto searching for data, auto generating data, just like letting you talk to your data even, or letting you ask like, how can I perform this task, even like a helper to help you learn more about geospatial. And that's what we're just working away to make reality, because we really think that we can put something in your hands that will make you just feel insanely powerful in just a short hour. And that's what we're working towards, because as you said, like the value in geospatial is so high. So we think AIs, or we think that for products that integrate AI, mapping is kind of like so a good fit, such a good fit.
I think the thing for me reading about Navi as well is, the fact that you can, because you'll get a lot of users within housing who know what they should be doing but don't necessarily have the technical skills. And I like the fact, like this AI tool, you can say, let's say as a grounds maintenance manager, I need an app that can display grounds maintenance data. I need to be able to have these 5 or 6 different categories, and I need to know how it links with pricing from different contractors. And when you've got this estate reference, it links to this contractor, and I need to be able to produce something that bills, as well as I need a form for edits or queries or whatever that can be raised. And the fact that you can tell that in the chat box and it produce that within however long it takes, I think that's a really powerful step. So yeah, you said the 21st of November is when you're looking to release it. Is that going to be on all levels of subscriptions that you've got, or is that only going to be available to certain subscriptions?
No, we certainly want to make it available for free users as well, with limitations, of course. But everybody will have access to it right out.
Okay, that's fantastic. To be honest, I can't get over the Navi tool. I'm really excited to see who in housing, or even like, doesn't matter if it's just UK housing, but any asset managers, what they produce out of it.
Yeah, I think it would be crazy. It's like, and it's so funny because the team are so excited about it too. So it's like, I feel like every second sentence we have in the office is like talking about Navi almost.
What's one of the interesting use cases which you guys in house have built so far?
Yeah, I think one of the really cool like recent ones that just kind of blew me away was that we were helping Richmond, which is like a region in the US. We're helping them with community outreach, and they have a quite big area where they are trying to set up new zoning basically. And they created a public-facing map very quickly and styled it and made it look super nice. Probably, I don't know, spent half a day or a day to make this map, I guess. But now it has like almost 2,000 comments from different people in it that have commented, I don't know, like for this region, have you checked out that leave the historic buildings alone. We don't want your modern stuff here in the vans, says anonymous user with 24 upvotes and 7 downvotes. So it's been really cool because so many people have reached out here. They have gotten such a better understanding of what to do in which areas. And it just helped them so much in like having the clarity of what they should do to actually get insights from the maps, like to end up with new useful information. And that's kind of like, to me, what maps is all about. So just seeing that way we're able to do that in a modern interface for several thousand people, that was just like a super cool win in my opinion.
Oh yeah, so that's one of your community maps which you've been working on, isn't it?
Yes.
I'm just trying to think because the comments thing I think is really interesting with your public facing because that can really support your decision makers in okay, this area they're probably not too fussed about because we haven't received many comments about, but in this
Yep.
area there's a lot of pros or against, and that will really help weigh up. Has there
Yes.
I'm just trying to think with Navi, going back to
Yep.
Navi quick. Have your because the example you've got on the video of your official statement release is around
Yep.
creating a forestry asset register and
Yep.
being able to spatialize that. Have your developers created anything interesting like I don't know like car sales or just something odd that you thought, oh, would it produce something cool, and actually you realised, yeah, actually is really interesting.
Ah, that's a good question. I'm gonna try to think a bit here. Um, oh, I actually have one. That's kind of crazy. So one is we were looking at kind of like newspaper maps because there are in newspapers, there's a lot of maps everywhere. And we would like to make maps that are just look super beautiful so you can share them. And for some reason in Norway, and one of the newspapers had made a very beautiful murder map, so a map over every murder that's happened in Norway in the last 15 years.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a crazy map, and we remade it, and it looked, in my opinion, super good. But that was, I guess, one of the more very crazy out there things.
But
But yeah,
Navi was
so
able to take that information and it was able to put it directly onto the map. That was all through Navi, was that?
yes, make like a interface, so make like a public facing thing, and then yeah, format it to make it look nice. So that's one of the cool ones.
That's really,
Yeah,
really cool.
yeah.
I'm just trying to think, because obviously you've got the zoning districts. Have you got any other examples where it looks at like land ownership and how you can see different states of ownership in different buildings or different land areas?
Yes, absolutely. So that's also definitely one thing you can do. And kind of what I like so much about Navi 2 is like you could just go to that chat box and just ask it, and it will pull in information from different places and make like the outline for you. So I think one of the really cool things is if you just ask it for that to make like a map over land plots and how to which ones to choose, for example, you would get something out that would, if it doesn't solve the use case for you entirely, it would spark your creativity to the point where you can solve it really quickly. So it's kind of like you have this either you have this GIS Pro that just solves it for you, or you have this GIS intern that takes you kind of like to the draft mode and you can finish it yourself.
Yeah, because that's a really powerful thing, isn't it? It's do you want
Yeah.
it to do everything for you, or do you just want it to guide you in those steps? Because that's what they're
Yes.
reckoning with all kind of AI content now, isn't it? And if you're producing
Yes.
forms or documents on using ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever, it's
Yes, and I think
no
yeah, and I think
wikis.
yeah, 100%. And I think like forestry, one of the things we wanted to showcase there really well was that uh, if you are a project manager and you have some forest data about your trees, maybe that's a data set you're going to create, and you know you want to create a map. It's like, where do you start? Do you create like fake data and then try to create some, like, where do you even start? So what we wanted, or what we have made, is that you can say, make me a forestry dashboard, and we will create sample data for you. So you can actually see, okay, what will the end result look like here? And then you can just delete the sample data set and put in your own true one. But it's like, we want to take you there as quick as possible, because a lot of the people that want to make a forest management dashboard doesn't even know what that looks like, right? Because I haven't done that task before. Because there's so many of those people that we want to help, basically.
And so we're coming up to the end, and we've got a bit of a tradition now with this question. If you had an unlimited budget, where how you could build Atlas up however you wanted, what would you do?
Within an unlimited budget, I guess I would really go far with Navi. I think that's my answer, and I think maybe like I'm trying to think from a product perspective always. So the important thing for me is that Atlas creates super much, like, the much possible value for our customers. And the cool thing to think about there is like, what does the future of the UI interface even look like? And I'm not sure, because I think AI will change a lot of things there. If you just think back to the 70s, the first like computer games, they were like terminal based, and you would say like go right or go left or whatever. And now suddenly in 2025, we're back to like terminal based UIs again, which is like crazy turn of events in my opinion. But if I had an unlimited budget, I would just go all in on Navi and probably try to make some radical changes to how you interface with maps before you even create them. Because for sure you want a graphical user interface, but I'm not sure you even always want that, even though I'm sure that's not something everybody agrees with. That's something
Well, I completely agree with that statement, actually, because geospatial is not always about maps, and that's the thing. Like, we love maps, and we talk about, but sometimes you just want to say, how many homes do I have in this area, or how many homes are within 10 miles of this fire that happened. You don't necessarily, or it could be like, list all the addresses of what I own near this event. Yeah, sometimes you don't need the map for that. You can just have a simple spreadsheet or a simple number.
Yes.
I think that's a really interesting response, actually, to that question, and I'm really excited to see Navi being published and all the use cases people get out of it. I'm really excited to see that.
Yes, I think one of the cool things you were kind of like alluding to there is that, for me, a lot of the stuff that Maps is about is that you have a question about the world that you want answered. You have a question about the world that you want answers. You want insights. You want some understanding of what's going on around you, and that question to answer workflow, how that looks, and what the most natural way to do it. I don't know. Could be many ways, but that's where I think that going the AI way and having both that route and the regular user interface, where you as a user can choose which journey to answer that question you want, I think that's, to me, is empowerment. So that's what I think we should do.
That's awesome. Harald, thank you so much for today. It's been brilliant having you on. If anyone who's listened today wishes to get in touch, what's the best way for them to get in hold of you?
Yeah, so you can reach me either in LinkedIn, or you can reach me at my first name, Harald, at atlas.co. Feel free to reach out. I would be super happy to. Of course, I'm a map geek, so anything related to map or mapping technology I love. So you can't really go wrong. Just send me an email, and I'll get back to you. That'd be fun.
Awesome, thank you so much. And to those of you who have listened, thank you so much for joining us today. If you'd like to get involved in the podcast, please feel free to get in touch. You can find us either on our website, www.housinggeospatial.co.uk, or on our LinkedIn page. Thank you very much, and goodbye.